Once again, we're getting together with multiple ham radio YouTube channels across the internet, coming straight to you tonight in your living room to talk about stuff that ham operators talk about on YouTube. So stick with us and enjoy the ride.
Shut up and sit down.
Perfect. Okay. There we go. So let me switch to this view. There's 10 of us on tonight, so that's fun. We got Josh, KI6NAZ/AE.
Ooh, hey, how's it going, everybody?
Mr. Extra Class.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, did you get it?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congrats.
Cool. So Kyle, AA0Z, Mike, K8MRD, Sterling, N0SCC, Smoking Ape, who is still hiding behind the curtain.
That's right.
Man behind the curtain. Want to welcome Steve, K5ATA from Good Game Ham Radio. Is that what it's called? The name of the channel?
Yeah, Good Game Ham Radio and Outdoors. It's got bees in there too, but
bees. That's right. Okay, we'll come back to you in a second. Rob M1NUG, Mr. Tomato Head, Bob K6UDA, and Kevin W6RIP. So thanks guys for joining us tonight. We're going to be talking about some ARRL stuff. But first, I'm going to let Steve introduce himself and tell us about his ham radio channel on YouTube. So go ahead, Steve.
all right. My name's Steve, K5ATA. My ham radio channel is, Good Game Ham Radio and Outdoors and Bees. I kind of like doing stuff outside, doing ham radio, so I try to mix the two, and just recently got into a lot of POTA, Parks on the Air stuff, thanks to a certain individual here, Mike. But it's a good time. So another passion of mine is getting younger folks and newer folks into the hobby, and I'm a school teacher by trade, so it kind of works out well. Got a bunch of folks just tested and studying now, so hoping that we can keep folks getting into the hobby.
Totally. Yeah, I know that's what Sterling is focused on a lot of times, and Kyle too, if I remember correctly. Kyle does a lot of youth on the air stuff. So that's probably a topic we should bring up on a future episode. It's just youth on the air programs, all that kind of good stuff, how people can get involved that way.
I agree.
Might be a good topic. So thanks for joining us, Steve.
Bob,
you're muted. I can see you talking, Bob, but you're muted.
I said I'm trying to get good-looking girls involved in ham radio.
Good luck with that.
It's my mission.
Okay. So the topic for the day is basically Howard Michael or Michel, however you say his last name. Michel. WB2ITX, who actually met at the Chattanooga Hamfest last September, whenever it was. And he did a forum presentation about the future of ARRL, where they're headed. This was right before what's that new podcast, On the Air?
Yeah.
Right before they started that. And but his contract has not been renewed. So I'm told that I reached out to my section manager and my division leader, and I'm told that he was on a short-term contract. They did not renew him, and I don't know why. I was not given that information. So, but from what I learned about him and talking to him for 15 or 20 minutes at that show, he seemed to be in favor of social media and YouTube and outreach to young people for amateur radio, and not just focused on QST and paperback magazines the way that the ARRL League has been focused for a long time, which there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but needs some new stuff in there too. So
Probably why they fired him.
Yeah, well.
Didn't renew him. Remember, he was not renewed, not fired.
Right. Yeah, they didn't renew his contract. So I don't really know what that means.
It's like when you don't pay to re-up your ARRL subscription.
Yeah. But they didn't give him the choice to re-up it, I guess.
That's true.
Right.
They stopped subscribing to the CEO.
So anyway, I do wish him the best of luck. I don't know what he's going to go on and do, but
Well, he's got a robotics program company, right?
That's right.
That's
right.
Chinese based.
That's right.
I think that, I mean, again, here comes the speculations.
Right.
Oh yeah.
That's what
So
it's about.
first, I mean, these are just speculations. My thoughts are kind of just my thoughts. I don't really have any evidence based on it. But he's got a Facebook page. Actually, Sterling will probably go into some detail on this because he was investigating a bit and discovered the Chinese company that he owns / administers. Some pretty interesting YouTube videos on that front, but it's likely that it's just in the bylaws that he can't be doing two things, right? You're
Like a
either
conflict of interest or something.
Conflict of
well,
interest, right.
think about it. CEO is the figurehead of a company, right? And if they are a CEO for something like the ARRL, and you know what it stands for, or you know what it says on their website, but then they're also some kind of leadership on a company that is even remotely adjacent, it could look odd, and it could bring up a lot of questions that they probably just don't want to deal with. You know, can you imagine the amount of traffic the ARRL gets just on every day? Like, think of all of our comments combined, but in the form of like angry feedback to the ARRL that happens nonstop. And so any little thing like that, they're probably like, I don't want to deal with this. we don't want to play this game.
Don't want to play it.
Right.
Do any of you guys see that as a problem? Though that has another company. I mean, I don't.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah,
Only-
not
Not at all.
really.
No.
It only
not really.
depends on if that really pulled from his ability to do the CEO's duties. So yeah, let me switch my screen here. So
Ooh.
I did some digging, and one of the bylaws on 35 talks about the CEO. It says that his entire time shall be devoted to the duties set forth above. And from the information I've received out there, this was posted August 23rd, 2019, and it implies like he's still running a company, and running a company takes a lot of work. And from what I've heard, one of the things that was brought up in the reasons why he was removed was he was just really hard to get a hold of. And this might be why, it might be other reasons. He's also in the IEEE. But you mentioned earlier, N6AA, Dick Norton, started talking about it at Quartz Fest, and he didn't quote my blog, but I was the one who kind of publicized this. He said he wasn't necessarily thinking about that, so it was a myriad of reasons. Everybody should watch this video to kind of get an idea of it, but it steps lightly around the whole thing, and that's what I felt from directors. I was at the Winterfest Hamfest this weekend with Kyle, and I talked to Rod, the Midwest director. I talked to Cecil, the Central director. I talked to the Iowa and Missouri section managers.
Kermit,
the Central director, WX9A or W9XA. I have some notes here.
Yep.
And they were all, they didn't give me any information at all. So they were like, well, the contract wasn't renewed. I didn't go to the forum, but I talked to them directly, and they couldn't give me any more information. So another thing that I heard that it was that he wasn't coming up with great ideas, and he wasn't really like taking the reins of the board. It was kind of the other way around. So anything you saw the CEO, come up with, it was really just the board telling him, hey, you need to do this, hey, you need to do that. And that's just, that's, I don't really know if that's truth. I think after the minutes are out, the what do you call it? The curtain will finally be released, and some of the other directors will be able to put in, communicate more, and we'll start to see that unfold. But everything up to this point is still speculation.
So we had talked about in our previous episode, Josh brought up a really good point about transparency. About how the ARRL will do things or not do things, and they're not really good about sometimes they're not really good about sharing why they did or didn't do this thing. So you said the minutes come out. Do you think that's something that will be shared eventually about what the actual story behind his non-renewal is?
I think eventually, yeah. I still think that. So in Dick's video on the K7AGE channel, there's two political parties, the conspiracy, the confidentiality and the transparency party, or you could even say, I think of it like as the conservatism old boys club and the liberal or progressive club. And it's very easy to see based on voting record, who votes for what. who's in which club, and those people in the transparency club are more likely to communicate more about it, and then the conservative ones who want to keep it all under wraps and just kind of brush it under the rug will, like the guys I talked to this weekend, they probably won't. So
some of the stuff that, as far as the keeping some of it quiet, isn't that a part of their bylaws? Like, isn't that, I mean, it is a nonprofit, right? So they have constitution's the wrong word, but a set of governing guidelines that they voted in. And so they have to behave when they're in these different roles in accordance to that document or those rules. So not saying things publicly or individually that goes over into a certain area is probably something they're not necessarily allowed to do as written right now.
I mean, that was the whole kind of start of the problem in the first place, because Dick Norton in 6AA started spilling the beans about how he voted and how others voted and what his opinions are on a certain topic. And then he got censured by the ARRL because that's against their code of conduct. Basically, they all have to agree. They can't disagree or publicly talk about their disagreeal with a certain thing.
Yeah.
They just have to say, we voted, look in the minutes. That's about it, Meanwhile, we're coming out with On the Air. Like, come on.
Yeah, right. You can change that stuff, right? So
right.
The board can vote at any time to say, hey, we are going to enact more transparency. I don't know how long the rule is about everything being a secret, but maybe that's part of the issue. It seems to me that it's rather difficult to get supporters financially if everything's a secret, right?
Well, and I think that's part of the problem with the ARRL, the way things are, is, they're not really receptive to change,
right?
And they're not doing things that any other corporation or any other organization in this day and age is doing to kind of keep up with the speed of information. We all hear about things, like right now there's Twitter and Facebook and all these mediums and the internet, and oh, God forbid, ARRL management, guys like us, the 8 or 10 of us that are sitting here, and we get stuff out that fast.
Part of the problem is that they're spending too much time playing politics, trying to figure out who their CEO should be and how the board of directors should, publicize or not publicize things. If they put that all aside and just focused on the things you're talking about, Bob, I think they'd do a little bit better.
And it's also, you got to think it's a bunch of old guys that are running a business that are, stuck in their ways. So you're not embracing technology. You're not embracing the fact that your whole organization is funded by us. I'm a member now.
And I'm not.
So it's like, we're paying you to kind of do this. So why would you not let us know what's going on?
Right. I agree.
That's the problem.
Get some younger blood in there maybe and have a little bit more progressivism, if that's a word. I don't know.
Whenever I talk to Rod Bloxham, our Midwest division leader, K0DAS, he said what Sterling and Bob were saying. We have to wait for the minutes, and it's going to be 6 weeks, and then they have to vote on them and approve them, and then they come out. So I said, we're as ARRL members, we have to wait 6 weeks for any information to come out about this. And he said, yep.
And how much of that
what version of the minutes you're going to get?
How much of that information are they going to black out? Like when you see FBI things that
are redacted. There won't be anything.
Well, what I see is the fact that, 15, 20 years ago when the ARRL was running things this way, that's how long it took to get the magazine out. So by the time they voted on the minutes and the minutes were published, they were coming out in QST, and that's how everybody got their information, other than maybe the W1AW bulletin. Now everything is changed, and they're not changing the way that they do things, and that is going to be a problem going forward, because we're not going back to those good old days.
I know for a fact that, because I talked to my division leader, who's N5AUS, John Stratton, and I don't want to I don't want to. I mean, you guys have named some of your division leaders, so I'll go ahead and name him. I mean, I'm in the West Gulf division. You can find out who he is if I didn't name him, so it's not a big secret or anything. But I've talked to him, and he says that the division leaders have 2 annual meetings. It's January and July, I think it is, and one of them is in Connecticut, and one of them is in Colorado somewhere. And those have always been closed meetings where the ARRL members and the public are not invited. It's just the division leaders to talk about whatever the heck they talk about. My division leader, along with several others, he's not the only one, have been pushing to try to make that a public meeting and get that process. It should be, yeah, especially for members. So I think if they can start doing things like that and opening up the doors to members and saying, well, this used to be private, but now we're going to change that. We're going to make this a public meeting. I think that's a move in the right direction. So doing something like that might be, I mean, it's going to be baby steps, right? Once you get one meeting that is made public, then somebody else's meeting is going to be made public. And then it might create a snowball effect to where you get more information out there in a bit more timely manner.
I mean, it's kind of political though, right? Because these are elected people. It takes a long time. The meetings happen. And then we just heard about the 6 weeks for the minutes. These are all things that require changing of a bylaw or changing of something that's been in place for a long time. So you got to sway people to your side. It's literally politics, right? I was watching Rob's video on this topic, and my wife happened to be walking by, and she saw part of it. And I think Rob was mentioning, like, if they should, get rid of some of this drama, right? And kind of focus on the mission. And my wife goes, this man has never been involved in a nonprofit before. and she's joking, but I don't know if that's true or not, but it was her comment. Because you can't have a nonprofit without drama. Like, there is no way. Like local government, right? Elected officials, nonprofits, very dramatic, because everything is this sway, give and take, compromise, political balancing act. And I think that's what the ARRL is.
Yeah, totally.
And the changes aren't going to happen overnight. I think it's all of us, saying these things, and it just plants a seed and it grows. And like you said, Josh, it's going to take time, but hopefully it happens at some point.
By the time it happens, we'll all be replacing the older people that are on the board now, and we'll all be old. We'll be the new cadre of old people.
It all comes back around.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, you're not a member, so you don't get to vote.
We're gonna be on the ARRL board. Back in my day, we used YouTube. You young codgers haven't heard about YouTube.
Now they just beam the videos directly into your head. I had to watch with my eyeballs.
But Josh, but you're, as a president of a club of 300 members, we have 300 members. There are, I don't know how many ARRL members. We said that on a couple of YouTube video. I think we figured out there was
200,000.
200,000, and there was like 1,500 NRA members. We were going back and forth.
15 million.
Right. Yeah, 15 million. But anyway, from a club perspective, you're right. I mean, even a club of 300, I feel like it takes forever for us to do stuff.
Yeah.
And we make decisions, and people don't check their email, or they've got families, or they've got other things going on. And before you know it, 3 months have passed, and I'll bring it up in a board meeting, or just on email. I'm like, where do we stand on this? And somebody will say, oh, I forgot. And I'm like, God, come on, let's go. Let's get something done.
Yeah, but the difference is in your club, do you keep everything that you do a secret from the membership until the minutes are published?
Well, if there is a care factor also, some of the people in the club are just there to be in a club. And then there's other people that are involved. And in our club, the same 10 people do everything, right? And as long as we don't
Are we in the same club?
As from what I can, I've been the president for a year and a month here, but I've been on the board and doing stuff with our board for many, many years. And as long as you are sticking to, I don't want to say status quo, but you're doing things like getting people on the air and having classes and putting Winterfest, you know, our annual ham fest as a large majority of your time and effort and doing things that the club wants to do, 95%, 99% of the people don't rock the boat. You know, you do have some people that come to the board meeting and express their opinion, and we listen to them, right? And I get back to them and I say, thanks for your opinion. The board has voted, and this is the way that we're going to go. And if they don't like it, I have a discussion offline with them and we move forward. That's all I can do.
But you're having the discussion.
Yeah, you're not actively hiding it from.
No. Every person that comes to me with an issue, either it comes to the board and we have discussion and I follow up with that person on that issue, or I have an offline discussion. We have all of our meeting notes and we don't publish them, but if a member asks for them, we obviously give them to them, so they can follow up and see what we talked about. But if they have an issue, it's full disclosure, right? This is what we did. This is how we discussed it. This is this is how the board voted. And if you like to come to the next board meeting and have another discussion, you're more than welcome. It's an open board meeting.
What kind of topics are you guys talking about? That I guess I don't really know what goes on in the inner workings of a club.
How much wire they're going to buy?
Yeah, I mean, really, my club votes.
Are we going to have tri-tip or hot dogs for field day?
Well,
tri-tip.
It gets a little bit more in depth from that, but I mean, the club takes in a lot of equipment from Silent Keys. How we're going to deal with that?
Yeah.
We have. I mean, this past weekend, Sterling mentioned it. We had our biggest ham fest. We have our ham fest of the year. There's 1,300 people that attend that. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. We have a banquet, we have Education Alley, we've got all these things that we have to make decisions on.
And just this year, you guys added the banquet, the college contest college. You're starting to actually become a legit convention and not just a podunk small town ham fest. So all that work, to figure that out.
Right.
There's a budget too. All the budget stuff.
I mean, that budget is huge, you know, and we have classes, we have it's just, you would not believe all the stuff that goes on, even in a small club like ours. It is a lot of work, and there's a lot of decisions to be made, and the board has to make them. We have to follow up on them. We have to spend money to do things. We have to coordinate stuff. There's just a ton of coordination that goes into running a club and making sure that you are moving forward in that club, and you're getting youth involved, and you're addressing the new hams, and you're having classes, and you're testing and all of these things. And you would think that it would be a little bit more automatic, but it's not, because you still have to follow up with people. You still have to make sure that things are moving forward.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No. I'm the treasurer of the Hearst Club right now. And we have about, Kyle, you said your club is small, and I guess comparatively it might be, but we only have about 150 members on our roster. So we're about half your size, and we don't put on our own ham fest. And I'm sure that's a lot of work. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on. Yeah. You're talking about Silent Key donations. We had like 3 of those last year, and we still got a lot of the stuff sitting in our storage room. So it's definitely, time consuming for those people who have daytime jobs that they have to go to pay the bills.
Yeah. I mean, one example is we had a Silent Key, or a woman donated a ton of her old equipment because her father bought it for her. And I went over to her house, picked it all up, and we tested it out. And one of her requests was it went to a new ham. So now we have to figure out, how do we get that to a new ham? Do we have a raffle? Do we have an essay contest? What do we do to make sure that we give that to a new ham that's actually going to use it? I don't want to just, what the board says, well, let's just have a raffle. No. If we give it to the wrong person, I mean, it's literally $1,000 worth of equipment.
Right. I don't envy you.
You guys should have
complicating it a little bit, though. I mean, seriously, like find someone that's worthy and give it to them. I mean,
that's easy to me.
Mike, you have to do it diplomatically, because then somebody else is going to be like, why didn't you pick me? I didn't know about this. Why?
This actually wraps around back to the CEO thing, because N6A said, should we do this whole selection process and formally find somebody and diplomatically have a committee figure out who's our best match, or should we just go pick a guy that we know is like vetted and would be a good, choice for the thing? The whole board agrees with him. That would take a lot less time, but you would you wouldn't get anybody else, to state their case and throw in a resume and try to be it. And they might be better, they might be worse, who knows?
We're getting slightly off topic here, but I mean, the point.
How many of you guys had a? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, the point is that it takes a lot of time and effort to run a club. So ARRL is
no excuse. I mean, no, not.
Yeah, but the ARRL is not a club, though, right? And
no, but it's the same type. It's the same type of It's a nonprofit organization.
Right.
It's the same type of thing with a lot.
Sure, but like
more members.
at your work, like people work at nonprofit organizations, and they don't get to vote on who their boss is. They don't get to vote on the CEO, right?
Right.
And then, like in cases of this contest, the donation of the equipment to New Ham, you have to have somebody's authoritative, because nobody's ever going to agree, right? I mean,
that's true.
There's characteristics of well-run organizations versus not, right? And decision making and authority is part of that. I'm just not of the mindset that everybody gets to say so unless they're active participants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got on this topic because of the amount of disclosure and transparency.
Yes.
And for the ARRL. And I was just giving context of how much work and transparency and decision making is done whenever you have, board members and directors that have to give their opinion before a decision is made and voted on. And it takes a lot of time to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I agree. Not everybody needs to have a choice, but once that choice is made, it should be communicated as to why it was made, at least in a nonprofit, the company.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from too. I'm like, if you put it to the ARRL membership as a vote, great. If you don't, great. But you need to be this whole what happens behind closed doors may or may not be shared with you is kind of, if they want paid members, if they want to increase their membership, and they want to grow their membership, they need to be more communicative with their information.
Right, but I mean, that's gonna require a policy change.
True, but times change, so maybe it's time.
That's an easy changing a policy.
No, I mean that's an assumption.
Level.
You're making an assumption on how easy that is to do, because again, it's otherwise the people that want to be outward going with the information, they'd already be doing it, right? If it was that easy, they'd already want this. Like, that there are board members that want this and directors that want this, or division.
And then at the same time, there's members who don't, or board directors who don't.
Right. And because it's a nonprofit and because they have bylaws that they have to follow, the ones that don't want it can step on it and keep it from happening. So again, it's this dramatic push-pull compromise to make it happen. So it's not that easy, right? And first of all, there's no way that they don't know this, right? There's no way that they are thinking, whoa, I'm totally surprised you don't want us to be non-transparent. Like, nobody's surprised by that.
Right. Yeah.
But they'll say that. And I will bet you that they have not run into this issue at this level before.
Which issue?
Everything has been just kind of, it just flows along, and they get things done, and it goes. And now all of a sudden they've got controversy that has hit the membership, and it's created something that's bigger than they thought it would blow up into.
I mean, yeah, this is a big news story, but they've definitely had this level of drama or news before.
Yeah, they definitely have. People have been leaving me comments on my video all through the years. They feel the same way. Something happened in 1983.
Right. Yeah, it goes way back.
It's been out.
But in 1983, it took 6 weeks for it to come out because it was all QST. Yeah. Now we're talking about doing things at the speed of the internet.
Yeah, it's more immediate now. You're right.
True.
Yes.
True.
And that's really all I'm talking about is the organization has to update itself and change with the times to reflect the new state of news information cycle that we are in.
Well, I'll ask you a question, Bob, because I knew you were a police officer. How easy is it to change a dumb law?
That, you know what? If a politician gets caught up in it, very easy. They do it all the time.
So yeah, if they have a desire to change it, they will. So obviously there's someone in the ARRL or groups of someone's that don't want it to change. I'm sure there's a lot that do, but there's some that don't.
There's actually a fair number of just rank and file people that don't want it to change. I've got those comments too. Like, hey, we want it to be the way it is. We don't want the transparency. Just let them do it. And that's fine. People feel
that's a weird comment. It's like, don't read it.
I would think,
if you don't want to see it, don't watch
I
it.
just want to give you my money, and I don't want to know what goes on.
Yeah, I don't
strange.
understand that thinking, but
Strange.
people are thinking that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely people that here's my $45. I'll get to QST, and if you guys make some changes, that's great. But as long as I can keep my QST and my bands, whatever.
It's all about the QST that everybody thinks is over everyone's head.
On the air, it's pretty good.
On the air,
they're doing a good job.
I haven't.
My kids love it.
Is it a publication as well, or just a podcast?
It's a new magazine, comes out once every 2 months, and first edition was 36 pages. It's light. The topics are nice. Lots of cool pictures.
Yeah,
so
the
that's
graphics
all
are
well
amazing.
done.
I thought it was really well done, and you can get it on if you have the digital version, so like on your iPad or something.
Yep,
it's on there as well. So in print, you can only get one version or the other. But digital, you can read both QST and on the air. I thought it was fantastic. I'm actually going to build a couple. I want to build a couple of the antennas that they had in there. I think there's.
A lot of the kids in my class were saying they were going to build them. So.
That little like wire antenna with the counterpoises looks like a really fun project.
They also announced that magazine's going to grow membership or get new people licensed.
Well, it's geared towards a more. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not as high tech as QST is.
Right. Sure. So it's geared towards newer hams, right? Like I think my issue with it is that it's not. They need to do something to attract people who are potential hams, right? And
it could be as simple as giving that magazine out for not because it's still a membership magazine. Yeah,
but I think it's like. Beyond that, like everything you see or hear them do is like we have to get kids into this hobby.
Yeah,
kids don't
but they will not get kids.
They don't have
magazine.
Expendable,
right,
and they don't have piles of money that they can just spend, right? Like most of the parents I know, if their kid wants an Xbox or an HF radio, they're going to buy the kid an Xbox because they don't know anything about that HF radio. It's like I think the ARRL needs to target. People look at the makeup of this video stream. It's all guys late 30s or 40s, 50s that do this as a hobby, right? That do this as something on the side. And I think that the whole strategy behind on the air is completely. I think it's silly. I don't think it's going to attract or bring anybody new in.
Well, they have market data on why they did it. They have their own membership data.
I saw the video.
Yeah.
I don't know that people who are already hams, right?
But you're looking at it from a bringing people into the hobby. I don't know that they'd argue that it's for bringing people into the hobby necessarily.
No, I think they're saying it's to get people on the air who are already in there.
Right, because their information said there's a ton of people that get their technician and they never use the radio, or they don't even have a radio, right? They don't use the license, and this is to get them closer to getting on the air for the first time kind of thing.
I think a good solution for the On the Air magazine. So I think probably all of us own at least 5 Raspberry Pis, right? So Raspberry Pi has a magazine called Magpie, and you can subscribe to it and get the digital or get a hard copy of it, or you can download it for free. So you can learn all about these Raspberry Pi projects and making all kinds of really neat things with these tiny little computers. And they're targeting the STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. They're targeting kids with that. And if the ARRL simply did that, make that just a free download. If you want a hard copy, hey, you got to pay for it, but download it. You're getting how many millions of dollars a year from all the subscribers? A downloaded copy costs you nothing other than your time and writing it. But kids are online. They're not reading newspapers. They're not buying CDs. Everything is on the internet.
See, that's my hang up with it is I talked to Dan Henderson at the Jackson Hamfest this weekend, N1ND from headquarters. And it was a good discussion right up until he said, we are not actively looking for 11 and 13-year-olds. Kids are not the future of ham radio. And I'm like, dude,
That's the problem.
that's
right
my
there.
thing. I mean,
Right,
and he's
right.
like, well, and I get that they don't have the expendable income, and the look on their face when I said, we really need a membership level that's within a 13-year-old kid's budget for that minor kid that can get in there for,
And
$10 or
interest.
something,
Mm-hmm.
and let him get in there and get a taste of it. And when he said that, my wife and I were both like, he seriously just said that.
Mhm.
Huh.
Well, I think it's important to get kids in there, but I think the way that you do that is you target families and you target fathers who will pass something down via tradition. It's like on the Discord today, Josh, Evan posted a picture in a camping or hunting magazine of somebody selling rebanded Baofungs as bug out radios for $69.
Right.
And like you see the rugged radios at the 4x4 shows.
Yeah.
That's because the big three are not doing that, right? Like when I go to a Jeep
Right.
show or I go to camp RV show or something like that, why isn't the ARRL there? Why isn't one of the big three there saying that, hey, we have communication systems that will enhance hobbies that you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on.
So
Thinking
it's-
that little Johnny's gonna get a 7300 as opposed to an Xbox and use it long term, I just have a real hard time believing that that's a path forward.
it's likely budgetary, and there's only so many hours in the day, and if they have resources that they want to apply, they'd rather apply those resources to keeping the members happy than pull in a group of people who they feel is likely to convert into an amateur radio operator.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, again, I'm assuming these things have all been said. Well, the time or the money, and and by the way, this might not be actually a fruitful
Yep.
way to go.
I mean, they have data on that because they went to a lot of maker fairs, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it didn't really result in turnarounds or turnovers or memberships. It's just
Mhm.
there was a little exposure of ham radio, but not really any membership. So
Yeah.
and they go to there's conventions, there's Hamfest, there's all that they still support, and I think that's where they find most of their memberships from. Besides on the
I
internet.
think it's good to have the exposure for the young people, but kind of like Ape is saying, maybe
I
the
think we're going to
target.
drop here, so let's
Let's wrap.
just-
Let's go ahead and wrap up this topic.
Do we ever figure out how much the CEO makes, by the way?
Yeah, it's
More
the
than me.
990 report. It's like $200,000.
Wow.
Oh,
ARRL, give me a call.
More,
I should throw my hat into the
I can
ring.
think
more
of a
than
guy
my
or two
YouTube
interested.
channel makes. So,
I already live
Okay.
in Connecticut.
Oh, hey.
hey,
I'll do it. No, I won't.
okay. So I'm gonna.
It's like, is that your application?
You have to move to Newington.
Yeah. All right. Let me wrap this up real quick, guys. I appreciate everyone watching. We're going to continue doing these types of episodes. So put your comments below. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you have any more information about any of this discussion topics here tonight. And be sure to click all the links in the YouTube description that link to all the channels for the people represented here. 10 of us tonight on the YouTubers Bunch. And we hope to see some of you guys in Orlando Hamcation 73. And everyone have a good evening.